Does anyone truly understand ADHD? What if it's not what you imagined, and you could actually change how you deal with it? Welcome to Shift's Perspective, the show where we rethink how we understand the mind. Today, we're talking ADHD, challenging what most people think they know, and looking at how it actually shows up in everyday life. In this episode, we're exploring processing speed, the pace at which a person engages, responds, and takes action in everyday tasks and conversations. I'm MR.MINDSHIFT, but just like everyone else, you can call me Shift. Back with me are Cassandra, diagnosed with ADHD at 30, and Joe, whose 20-year-old son was diagnosed at 12. Before we dive into what processing speed means for people with ADHD, let's make sure we all understand what it actually is. Processing speed is basically your pace, how quickly you engage, react, and get things done. You can think of it like a spectrum. At one end, slower processing can make social situations tricky, not because the person isn't smart, but because conversations often move fast, and it takes time to catch up. Now, when it comes to ADHD, things look a bit different. People with ADHD often process fast. They're quick to react, quick to act. That can be a strength, but it can also create problems. When processing speed is too fast, it can affect several areas that are crucial for everyday functioning, like trying to find the right solution or making good decisions, but doing it so quickly that important details get missed. This can lead to impulsive choices rather than thoughtful ones. It can also impact how we understand consequences, rushing into action without stopping to consider what might happen next. Another common effect is skipping over important steps. You might jump straight to the end of a task, without the middle parts that actually lead to the right answer. Planning, structure, and overview also take a hit. It becomes harder to organize your thoughts, see the big picture, or know where to start. There might be plenty of ideas, but no momentum to begin. Sometimes this speed leads to poor decisions made on impulse, without enough time to reflect, evaluate, or think things through. Not because the person doesn't care, but because their brain moves faster than their judgment can keep up. And then there's social behavior. Reacting too fast in conversations can come across as inappropriate or confusing, especially when there's no time to read the room. All of these patterns are connected to how fast the brain processes situations, and how little time it leaves for pause, context, or reflection. For people with ADHD, meaning and motivation matter. If something doesn't feel relevant or rewarding, it's genuinely hard to engage, even if the task is simple or the goal is clear. Without motivation, processing and acting on information becomes a real challenge. Cassandra, I want to ask you something. Have you ever jumped into something exciting, full of energy, but without really thinking it through? Or started a bunch of things, but struggled to finish them? Or avoided tasks that require more thought because they just feel slow, heavy, or kind of pointless?
Yeah, that really hits home. I've always had a tendency to jump into the fun, exciting stuff, new ideas, fresh projects, and just kind of ignore the rest. At work, it's usually the more routine tasks I avoid. I push them off, telling myself I'll deal with them later, but they keep piling up. And before I know it, I feel completely overloaded. Lately, I've even started thinking, maybe I need a different kind of job, something with fewer of those draining tasks. Not because I can't do them, but because they take so much more out of me than they should.
Yeah, and that actually makes a lot of sense. When your brain is constantly speeding forward, it's easy to get drawn to the exciting stuff, and equally easy to avoid what feels slow or heavy. And when those small tasks pile up, they don't feel small anymore. They feel impossible. What you're describing is a really common pattern for people with fast processing speed. It's not about ability. It's about energy, timing, and how the brain prioritizes under pressure. Before we get into what might actually help, so you don't have to look for a whole new job, because most jobs will always have some tasks that just aren't that exciting or energizing. So the goal isn't to avoid them completely, but to find better ways to manage them without burning out. That said, I'm curious about something else. When it comes to pace, do you find it hard to slow down? like in conversations, tasks, or everyday situations? And do you sometimes feel like others are just too slow, too detailed, too wordy, or just taking forever to get the point?
Yeah, absolutely. That's something I notice all the time. I struggle to slow down in conversations, in tasks, even in my own thinking. And honestly, I don't know how to deal with it. My mind just keeps going, even when I want to be more present. I get impatient, especially when people explain things in a roundabout way. I'll start finishing their sentences, or zone out, waiting for them to get to the point. Then I feel kind of bad, because I know they're not wrong. It's just that my brain's already moved on to the next thing.
Yeah, and you're definitely not alone in that. When your brain moves fast, it can feel almost impossible to slow it down on command, especially in the middle of work, conversations, or just daily life. One small thing that can help is learning to notice the speed, like catching yourself mid-sprint mentally. Not to stop it completely, but just to shift into a different gear for a moment. It's not about slowing down your brain, it's about giving it a little space to breathe. On the screen behind me, I'll walk through something that can make daily life easier. If processing speed is one of your challenges, let's talk about how you can make things easier. When your brain moves fast, maybe too fast, start by training yourself to take more time. Even when you think you already have the answer, pause. Say something like, "That's a good question. I'll think about it and get back to you tomorrow." This gives you space to reflect, gather extra information, and maybe even see the situation differently. It also helps you avoid saying yes too quickly, or taking on more than you actually have capacity for. When facing a new decision or problem, don't try to invent the solution from scratch. Look for inspiration, examples, or existing tools. Use what's already out there. Prepare ahead for conversations and decisions. Try saying things like, "I've thought more about it since yesterday," or looking back, "I think I answered too quickly." Time management matters too. Take note of how long things actually take, and give yourself realistic time blocks. Use visual supports like written steps, lists, or checklists. They save brain power, so you don't have to rely on memory alone. Checklists are great when getting ready. They help you feel prepared and less scattered. Having known routines also frees up mental space and gives you more energy for new challenges. And when you're working on a task, try breaking it into short intervals with planned breaks. Reward yourself, but also make sure to get started again when the break ends. A simple reminder can help. This kind of system helps your brain stay on track, even if the task itself isn't exciting. We're out of time in this episode. What if understanding ADHD wasn't about labels, but about unlocking potential? In our next episode, we're exploring memory and how the way people with ADHD experience the world shapes what they notice, remember, and respond. Hit like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want to explore this on a more personal level, join the Free Shifts Perspective Forum, link is below. And for those of you who want to go deeper, you'll also find extra content in the description. Hope to see you again.